And on behalf of the Rollmakers HCE, welcome. Please turn off all your cell phones and electronic devices. And the forum tonight is sponsored by the Rollmakers HCE as a community service to promote education by providing you with an opportunity to get to know the candidates and their positions on the issues. We are not endorsing any candidates at all. All candidates for the town board were invited to attend tonight. Bob Bauerheit had a previously scheduled and paid for vacation in Mexico, and he is not able to attend tonight, but he did send a statement that we will read as an introductory type of a thing when we get to that point. So written questions have been submitted by the public prior to the forum, and they were reviewed and consolidated by our committee. And we really appreciate any of you that submitted questions. I think the quality of the questions this year was just really, really good. The exact wording of your question may not be asked, but we did try to address the topics that generated the most questions. And due to time constraints, we're not able to cover all of the questions that were submitted. The format that we will be using is the guideline established by the League of Women Voters, and each candidate will be given 2 minutes for an introduction to you, and then we will go to the questions. And for each question, they will also be able to speak up to 2 minutes. We have a timekeeper here, Arlene, who will let the candidates know when 1 minute is remaining, 30 seconds, and when time is up. So this is not a debate, so there's not going to be any rebuttals. It'll just be responses directly to the questions asked. And I'm asking each one of you candidates to make your responses issue-oriented and not directed at any individual, especially another candidate. And then after the question period, each of you will have 2 minutes for a closing statement. So the town board candidates, oops, let me make the statement here about the absentee ballots. The spring election will be held on Tuesday, April 5th. The Rome polling location is the town hall, and poll hours are from 7 a.m. to 8 p.m. If you requested an absentee ballot, please remember at this time, the only lawful way to return an absentee ballot under Wisconsin Statute 6.87 is by mail or to deliver the ballot in person to the clerk. So with that, we will be doing the opening statements. And as I mentioned, we did receive a statement from Bob Bauerheit. Jean Osgood will be reading that. She did time it out, and it does come to 3.5 minutes. So we decided that she would be able to read the entire amount because it would be still less time than doing both the opening and the closing statements. So at this point, I'll have her read Bob Bauerheit's statement.
Hi there, I'm Bob Bauerheit, running for my 3rd term as a Rome Town Supervisor. I am sorry that I will be unable to attend your meeting today. I hope this written narrative will help clarify my positions regarding the items concerning our town and presented to our board. Above all, I am a financial conservative and have strived to reduce or maintain the taxes imposed by the town of Rome. In this regard, I have been successful during the last 4 years. The only tax increase allowed was to cover the cost of reestablishing 24/7 paramedic service starting in January of 2022. This was discussed in detail at our annual electors meeting in November and was voted unanimously by all in attendance. As we age, this is a critical service for us. Since I was first elected in 2018, I have served on many committees and chaired our Parks and Recreation Committee. As a member of the Dead Tree and Brush Task Force, I played a large part in convincing other board members that we needed to expand our efforts to annually pick up dead timber and brush at each property owner's lot. In 2022, all properties will have a curbside pickup in the fall. That's this year. It is my intention that this valuable service will continue to help reduce the risk of wildfires and contribute to the enhancement and appearance of our town. For the past 4 years, I have served as the Rome Town Parks and Recreation Chairman. You have no doubt seen the development at the Town Center Park in our business park. This is directly to the south of the splash pad and will eventually be home to a band shell, pickleball, tennis and basketball court, shaded picnic areas, and other amenities. I have helped raise over $400,000 in private donations for this endeavor. None of your tax dollars are allocated to this project. Building costs are escalating, but it is my hope that you will soon see the start of our construction of the band shell. This will be a community gathering place for concerts, plays, civic events, and exercise for all members of our community. There are other projects in Rome that I have been involved in other than attending board meetings. The selection of our current town administrator and director of public works, construction of the municipal facade, painting of town buildings, including the repair of the fire department hose tower and the expansion of the transfer site, dumpster hauling, and replacement are among them. I enjoy serving our community and sometimes marvel at all the decisions and event planning that goes into running our small but growing town. I feel that I am a productive member of the board and appreciate all interactions with members of the community, town staff, and especially our first responders who deserve our unbridled gratitude. I hope that when you vote, you will give serious consideration to Bob Burheit as your ongoing representative.
Thanks. Okay, before each of you make your statements, I just wanted to mention that there are 4 of you running for the 2 open positions. So as you go to the polls, you'll be able to choose 2 people of the 4 that are running. So we'll start with the opening statements, and we'll start here with Tom Beal.
My name's Tom Beal. My wife and I moved here 5 years ago. We moved up here because of the small town atmosphere that we met with coming up here in the summers to our camper. I'm on the Monroe Prairie ATV Club board, one of the directors there. I'm also on the Rome Board of Appeals right now. That's also a position coming up this year that needs to be redone. Mostly what I'm all up here for the town board is I want to make sure that we stay as a recreation area, looking at the ways that we can keep it recreation, how we can keep the forests so that our future can actually grow up here. Also in a way that we do not interfere with trying to keep the waterways nice and clean. Obviously, if we don't have those, nobody is going to be wanting to come up into the town of Rome at all. Obviously, it's not going to be cleaned up overnight as what a lot of people seem to be thinking is going to happen, but we don't want to throw something new as in chemicals or anything that's going to sound like it's going to happen overnight. It's obviously taken a long time to get this way, and it's going to take almost just as long to clean it up. Nobody is going to be able to tell you anything differently. Thank you.
Lori?
My name's Lori Giamatti. 44 years ago, my family bought our first piece of property at Lake Arrowhead. We camped for several years in a tent camper, graduated to a mobile home, and eventually my folks put their retirement home on that same property. Wasn't long after that my husband and I bought our first property here too. We've been married for 35 years, have 1 son and 3 little grandchildren. We have lived in Rome full-time for 22 years, and it's been like being on a vacation that entire time. We are both retired now and enjoy gardening, backyard birding, fishing, and traveling. My husband loves to golf, which allows me time to be a crafter, wine taster, shopper, government geek, and a self-proclaimed community cheerleader. I studied political science, history, and computer science in college. I was blessed to have two fulfilling careers, one as a leisure and corporate travel agent for 12 years as a group travel planner, managing groups of 15 to 1,500 to various destinations around the world, and as a travel agency manager with a staff of 7. The other at Century Insurance for 11 years as a computer programmer analyst. I'll let you guess which one was more fun and exciting. I previously served as a Rome Town Board Supervisor for 8 years from April 2010 till April 2018. I worked hard to provide reliable leadership for our evolving and thriving community. While on the town board, I served as a Community Development Authority member, strongly advocating for strategic planning in what was the Alpine Village. I also worked on a comprehensive outdoor rec plan, worked on the splash pad work group. I started the Gather at the Gazebo Music in the Park with Krista Kuhn at the Heart of Wisconsin. I was one of the founding members of the original Rome Tourism Bureau and its first vice president. I was a founding member and the first vice president of our Rome American Legion Auxiliary, Ryan Larson, Post 65. I also was a county board supervisor from April 2010 to April 2016.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And Dan?
Hello, my name's Dan Stoyle, and this is my first foray into politics. I'm an engineer, and I did all my thing in business. I owned property up here since 1972, and I became a full-time resident in 1997. My educational background, I went to the University of Wisconsin-Madison, graduated in 70 with a Bachelor's of Electrical Engineering. I graduated from Loyola University of Chicago with an MBA in 1977, and even more significantly, I completed General Electric's management manufacturing program. It's a 2-year master's in business, and I think it was a lot harder to do that one than it was to get the MBA and the engineering degree from Madison. At Alliant Energy, I'm a graduate of their Lean Six Sigma program, which teaches you how to manage projects, take things down, and make it nice and simple and document it. I'm divorced. I have one child. She's a lieutenant commander stationed in Washington, D.C. She has a son who's 17 years old, and he's going to school in Great Falls, Virginia. Work history, was a member of the Rome Water Utility Board, and now I'm a member of the Town Utilities Board. Oops. I'm wasting time. The Six Sigma Black Belt program is really project management, and that's what I've done in my 30 years career. I learned to document projects, prioritize things, do the brainstorming to see what we want, prioritize it based on cost and benefits. Some of the benefits are intangible. Thank you.
Okay, we'll start the question period now, and the first person will be Lori to answer. We received several questions concerning growth and development of the town. The first question that we'll cover tonight is, with the growth of Sand Valley expected to double in the next 5 years, what would your plans be for further expansion of infrastructure and economic development?
Further expansion of infrastructure. Okay, I believe we're on the right track with having started a collaboration with the communities around us for emergency services for ambulance. I believe we should also consider exploring, I'm not thoroughly convinced, but we need to consider exploring possibly a fire district. I'm not leaning one way or the other, but I think there may be some benefit to possibly doing that. Reasons why: volunteer strength in numbers, perhaps greater camaraderie, improving the economics of the investment to provide the services, the cost sharing and savings of doing so. Reasons why not: we have major investments in our own equipment already based on, people contributing with their tax dollars and through donations, as well as the Fireman's Fund. We have very good equipment here, but I think there's things that we need to look at doing that. And I think it would really help the services. There's only so much land, so we're either going to be building more homes here, and we need to have development, and that's how we need to support our community moving forward. So to provide those services, a fire district is something we definitely need to explore.
Dan?
Hi. Infrastructure. The town roads really need some significant input to them, develop them, and other things. As far as infrastructure, I would hope the town board would sit down and have a brainstorming session and highlight what are the different infrastructure things we want to do. Nobody who throws an idea on in a brainstorming session should be scoffed at. It should go down on the board. After you get them all down, then you start ranking them based on benefits and cost, and you do a benefit analysis on it. Police department, we got to support the police department. That's infrastructure, okay? I'm not sure if we need more police officers, less, or whatever, but that's something that's got to go through a natural process. It's to develop and identify which you need and which you don't need. I'm open to any suggestions, good, bad, or indifferent, but I'd like to be able to rank them by priorities. Thank you very much.
Tom?
When you talk about infrastructure for Sand Valley, first and foremost, you gotta make sure that you can get the paramedics, the medical people, the fire trucks out there. There's gonna have to be a little more infrastructure put on the south side of Sand Valley in order to get all those people in there. Most of the people that I see actually golfing there are middle to upper age. They've had enough heart attacks over there already, where some of the medical people had to go out there on golf carts in order to get out to where they needed to be. You have to have that out there first. You're gonna have to go and actually work with Mr. Kaiser and his people to find out what needs to be done out there first, and then we can worry about how our trucks are gonna get to that place without unnecessarily spending all that money on roads that we're already spending money on as taxpayers for the city and the town area here. Obviously, any other growth out there is gonna, then you're talking water's going out there. If you get water out there, now you're talking sewers. So all that growth is gonna take place much quicker than what people wanna talk about. If you don't start planning now, we aren't gonna be ready for it. So we're gonna definitely have to get that all taken care of and prioritize it, just like Dan said.
For the next question, Dan, you'll be first on that. Give an example of when you supported growth. Was it successful? If elected, will you support the continued growth of the town?
My first example is going back some 40 years. When I was with General Electric, I was the project engineer at their plant in Milwaukee, the dishwasher plant. We led the whole appliance division in implementing computers. This was back in 1980 when a little IBM XT was $5,000. Was it successful? Wildly successful. We identified the savings. A lot of them were intangible, a lot of arm waving and putting it down. But by the end of the tenure, we had just about a personal computer in front of every salaried employee. And the benefits were far greater than what we could understand and, hope for. And a lot of them were surprising. And I believe in expansion and projects, but I don't believe in growth for growth. I believe in developing the town positively and wisely. If you're gonna invest $1, you should get $1's worth of benefits out of it. Thank you.
Tom?
Could you repeat the question, please?
Sure. Give an example of when you supported growth. Was it successful? If elected, will you support the continued growth of the town?
First, I would say that I will support growth, but only growth as much as we can handle here. I think some of the examples that we had seen in some of the polls of what people want here are a little more like what big cities have. Some of that stuff is not going to be taken very easy around here. I've seen things as Starbucks, some of the other coffee shops. You're obviously not going to get a McDonald's around here because of the size. Car washes, people aren't going to be able to have here either unless you can get a self-contained water recycling plant right there. I would have to take into account of my own part of it as to what some of our commissions recommend. Some of the planning commissions, they're not going to recommend certain businesses. They're not going to go and recommend some of the economic growth that other people want. It just, you have to take each one at a time in order to see whether or not it's going to help us grow at all.
Lori?
Could you please repeat it?
Sure.
Sorry.
Give an example of when you supported growth. Was it successful? If elected, will you support the continued growth of the town?
Yes, I'll always continue growth of the town. A previous example is when I was on the town board again. I had a community initiative workshop that I coordinated, conducted with Patrick Reisma, rest in peace, of Travel Wisconsin. That was held here in the community room, which actually the draft group originated from that workshop. And their incredible efforts continue to that day. It's amazing. Then I also had a visioning summit, which was coordinated effort with unified strategic planning among the various town committees, including the Plan Commission, the CDA. And from there, I engaged representatives and presenters from the Wisconsin Economic Development Commission, UWGB, and the North Central Regional Planning Commission. And we developed from that the Gateway District, which is an overlay from the southern boundary of the town, the northern boundary of the town to the southern Alpine or Apache County D, which gave us some zoning restrictions as to what could actually develop there. So those were some of the accomplishments from some of that growth that I worked on.
Okay, thank you. Water quality is another important topic that garnered several questions. The first question will, Tom, you will be the start-off person for that. In what ways can the town board increase awareness and support for citizen efforts to improve our groundwater and lake water quality? What concrete actions will you support to improve and restore our water bodies?
First off, I think we have to definitely work with both the county water people along with some of the other groups like the 14 Mile Watershed people, Packers, all in working towards making sure that that waterway gets the funding that it needs. I expect that we'll be, if elected as one of the board members, we'll be looking at all kinds of way to get money from the county, from the state, to try and really clean that up as best as we can, but it's gonna take all of us. There's no way that just one little town board is gonna be able to take care of the water the way that it needs to be done. We just will not have the resources to do that. Obviously, we have a lot more people that are more educated in what it's gonna take than what I have. We're gonna have to rely on the actual professionals to tell us what needs to be done there. And I will try my hardest to get whatever we need out of the town to put behind that project.
Lori?
Could you please ask it one more time?
Yes. In what ways can the town board increase awareness and support for citizen efforts to improve our groundwater and lake water quality? What concrete actions will you support to improve and restore our water bodies?
I believe the awareness is already there. I believe we have many key partners already in place. And I think if Scott Krug, which there's no doubt, he's the only candidate in our district, and he's been on this since he was in the assembly. I think it's important that we keep pushing those efforts forward. We support our key partners with the 9 key element plan now that that's in place. And we should be, if I was elected to the town board, I'd be all over these ARPA funds like flies on you know what. I mean, if a 25% is $1 million, it's a town board, we should be getting together and in their face, writing letters, getting town support, and going to meetings, as many people as we can, to get $1 million towards our 9 key element plan. We have a 10-year limitation, if I'm not mistaken, because a lot of these, you can go on the DNR website and a lot of these lapse and they don't get their work done. Not to say that there's not people out there that are willing to do the work, but it takes time and effort, and we have 3 other counties that we have to coordinate with. They have a dedicated person down at the county now. But 75% of this is being paid for by the DNR, 25% is being paid by our own tri-lakes here in town, which our lake residents that are in the lake districts are paying for with their tax dollars in that lake districts. So we have to hope that the county will continue to take more of a leadership role and help the town. So we have to be basically in their faces and pushing this with them so that it succeeds in that 10-year time frame. So we have to get together and get the participation from the other counties and the surrounding farmers, and it really takes a group effort. So as a town board member, I would just help keep pushing that effort forward and collaborate with all the key partners that are currently in place.
Okay. Dan?
The first thing I would do to get the clean water is look at the programs that are out there and then grab the low-hanging fruit. The Goose Roundup was phenomenal. We took a bunch of geese off. I don't have the statistics, but it's a lot of goose manure that was prevented from going in the lake. There's the E. coli, all of this stuff, and it helps. And that was quick and easy. As far as the ARP funds, I think we should go after them. And as we're going after them, we should sit down and again, list all the things that we can do that are quick and fund those, because that's something that brings everybody's attention, and publicize how good the results are, and then start working on the longer term projects that we need to clean up the water. And part of it is understanding where the problem is. I know there's a lot of studies about, oh, the pollution's coming here, the pollution's coming there, but you gotta go down, document it, list it, highlight it. These are things we did, it didn't work. These are things we did that did work. What's the next project?
Laura, you'll be first on this next question. Will you financially support the efforts of improving water quality throughout the lakes and watershed?
Financially support it with town monies? Is that the question you're asking?
Yes, as a town representative, yes.
If we have available dollars to do that, and the town agrees as a whole, of course.
Dan?
That's sort of one of those questions that you gotta really kind of smile. This is a recreational area. We should be supporting the clean water, and this town is to the maximum that we can do that makes sense. I mean, I don't believe in spending money to spend money to say, hey, I spent $30,000 on this project without having some deliverables, okay? I believe in spending $100,000 on a project if there's deliverables. I can't tell you the projects right now, but the Goose Roundup, making sure everybody pumps their septic tanks on time and has them inspected properly, find out how much pollution's coming from us residents and how much is coming from the farms and everything. Identify it, document it, and then go after the low-hanging fruit. And there's gotta be a lot of low-hanging fruit out there that we can grab. Thank you.
And Tom?
I'll give you a politician answer, I could just say yes. But, you know, everybody needs clean water. We have to have it, or there will be none of us around here. Are the taxpayers gonna be happy if the roads get degraded more than what they are, just because you're spending money on the water? it's always a trade-off. You're gonna give up one thing in order to get this over here. So obviously I would want the clean water, but Joe down the road may want his road completely paved so that he doesn't have a little bump every now and then. But as a elected town board member, I'm definitely gonna try and get that water to be clean. And I will put any kind of money after it.
Okay. Dan, you'll be starting with this question. The fire department also raised several questions. First one is, do you support forming a fire district, and what are the advantages to Rome?
Do I support forming a fire district? Our fire department, and I can't tell you what the statistics are now, but at one time was very highly rated. It reduced my insurance on the homes because of the rating and all of that. I support our fire department very much, okay? As far as a fire district, I haven't investigated that, so I'm not gonna tell you yes or no or whatever. It's something that I've gotta learn about, and if I get elected to the board, believe me, that's one of the things I will learn about. Thank you.
Tom?
I would definitely support a fire district. You're not gonna have just one fire here on the north side of Rome. You could have a fire up here, you could have one on the south side, you can have one on the east side, all at one time. If you don't have mutual aid coming in from Big Flats, Plainfield, even down from Saratoga, we're gonna all be in trouble because one house fire could start all these woods on fire. And then we're gonna get a complete wildfire like any other place. We could clean up the woods, try and get out all that extra fuel that's in there, but you still have all the needles, all the leaves, everything's gonna happen at once. So the better off that our firefighters have out there, the better we will be in the long run.
Lori?
Could you please ask the question again?
Do you support forming a fire district? What are the advantages to Rome?
And I gave part of that answer earlier. I said I would support the exploration of a fire district. The reasons why is that volunteers are harder to come by these days, and that we need strength in numbers. Perhaps there would be greater camaraderie if we would collaborate. Years ago, when I was on the town board, I would go to many different seminars and conferences, and we would always talk about collaboration and how combining our efforts and our resources would give us greater strengths. And there's some truth to that, and we found that out recently with EMS. So there's definitely an opportunity to improve, possibly in doing such. And so we have to show that we could improve the economics of that investment. And would there be cost sharing and cost savings? Reasons why we may not want to do it would be the town's major investment we've already made in the quality of the equipment we already have, and other towns would have that same feeling. But just like we did with EMS, could we show, would there be different costs to each of us? Would there be, how would we balance that? And what would be the benefits to doing that? And I think there might definitely be some real benefits to doing that. And just quickly, while I have some time, back to the water question, and I believe there was a definite reason as to why that question was asked. Absolutely, if we have spare money laying around and we can support the other efforts to making sure we have clean water, of course the town should help support that. But we have other resources out there, and if there's ARPA money available, I also believe the county is at a place where they need to help our town and other towns around Adams County. There's sales tax money that's currently, we're getting more and more sales tax money in Adams County, more than we've ever had. And it goes up and up every year as we get more and more visitors. And I think that's definitely something that anybody that's elected to county board should start taking a look at and ask for some of it back.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we'll be starting with Tom on this question. Do you support a full-time fire chief? And please explain your thoughts.
Yes, I think we're at the point where we need a full-time fire chief. Mostly because he has to be able to organize the volunteers that are out there first and foremost. We also need one that makes sure that the equipment is always at the ready. Items don't get expired and cost lives, either for the firefighters or for us in general, where they can't get to a house, they don't have the hoses, they don't have certain pieces of equipment that would be needed. You gotta have a central point of contact to keep all that manageable.
Lori?
At this time, I believe that the situation we're in, the fire chief, even though he's the interim, is working for us full-time. And I think as long as we're at a place where the town board has expressed about a year ago, they had listed their priorities, and one of them was looking at a fire district, and I believe they revisited that idea again. And I think that until that's determined, I think we should wait until that fire chief would be permanently appointed as full-time, because I think that would be very harmful to the mentality and the morale of the staff that we currently have. They did have a drive to get new members and volunteers, and there are mutual aid agreements with the counties or the areas around us, such as Saratoga and Big Flats. I'm sorry. So if we were to get into an EMS fire district, and we already have a fire chief, you get into some territorial issues that might cause some morale issues. So that might be disappointing and affect the goodwill of the agreement you're trying to make. So I don't know that making the interim full-time at this point would be in the best interest until that is explored further. So I think leaving it status quo at this point until the new board is determined in April, and then they explore a fire district further, would be a good thing to do.
Dan?
Well, when I worked at GE, Jack Welch came up and says, you hire good people, you tell them what you want, and you get out of the way. Whether the gentleman is full-time, he's the full-time fire chief, or the interim who's working full-time, I don't see that splitting hairs to me. I mean, you get somebody in there, you give him the authority, you give him the resources he needs, and you make him accountable, and you have him report to the town board monthly or whatever it is to say, these are the projects we're working on. We're working on the fire district, and maybe even have a committee of some of the town board's members and some of the residents to work with him and identify fire district, no fire district, what is needed, and then fund what we need. Thank you.
Okay. Is the next question, Lori, you'll be the lead on it. The town had just 6 calls in January. If this trend continues, that would only be 72 for the year. Is the $566,000 budget justified
6 calls for what?
for the fire department?
Could you ask the question's a little confusing.
Okay.
What specifically?
Okay, this, obviously this didn't come from us. It was
I
a citizen
understand.
question. The town had just 6 calls in January.
Fire calls, okay.
Fire calls, yes. Okay, if this trend continues, that would be only 72 for the year. And is the $566,000 budget justified
For a full-time fire chief and department?
for the department?
Does that justify a full-time fire chief? I'm assuming they're asking.
No, they're just asking if the amount of money that is budgeted to the fire department is justified based on what this person conceives as a small call rate.
I think it's definitely something that needs to be looked into then. If there's only 6, it definitely needs to be looked into. And I think if the budget is that much and there's only that many calls, then that gives even more reason as to why we would want to look at a fire district and the need for a full-time fire chief. That definitely opens the door for sharing and why the town needs that type of an expense by itself. If I'm understanding the question correctly, it sounds like they're asking, why do we need a full-time fire chief and that big of an expenditure on our own, and could we possibly save money by sharing that across the board with other communities?
Dan?
I think if you look at it just the way it was stated, 500 and some thousand, 6 calls per month, 72 calls per year, you gotta question that, okay? But you gotta look at what's the real potential for disaster. We live in a wooded area. You get a fire that gets out of control. I know I live on Camelot. We could take out a large section of Camelot with a forest fire. So is it worth it? My belief is you look at the risk reward type of thing, and it's really hard not to justify it. That doesn't mean you don't look at it and you try to lean Six Sigma it and reduce things you don't need, but I would be real hesitant to say, no, that's not a smart move. We should defund the fire department and run the risk of some real potential disasters.
Tom?
I have to agree with Dan. 6 calls and it's $566,000. Doesn't make sense, but how much is your life worth? How much is hers? How much is Dan's? Who could put a price on that? I'm not doing it. I'm gonna make sure that they're funded as fully as they can be.
Okay, Dan, you'll be starting with this one. We're gonna switch over to recreational activities in the town.
Yes.
The first question is, why do we need to build a band shell when we have a gazebo? People here love pickleball. Can we get these courts built first, then the walking track? We need ways to keep moving, not sitting.
Okay. I'm not so sure about the band shell. I've been to concerts up in Wisconsin Rapids at their band shell, and they have the concerts that I knew about were once a week, and they had the town band or orchestra playing on a Wednesday night. There's a town band shell up in Stevens Point, and I really don't know how much it's used, okay? If they can come up and say, give me an idea of how often it's gonna be used, and what's the benefit of all of that, and how many people are gonna use it versus the cost. I question that one in my mind. I'm not against it, but I wanna see the numbers. The good, what's the bad, and what's gonna bite us later. We put the beautiful sprinkler system in for the kids to play on, and that was really good, but all of a sudden, the town came up and said, oh, surprise, it's costing us a bunch of money for water, and there was a panic. We gotta look at the unintended consequences of some of these things. Thank you.
Tom?
Again, agree with Dan. A band shell, I've been over there to listen to the concerts. I don't think a band shell is gonna make those bands sound any better. Truly. The gazebo itself is holding sound in. That's true. But we don't have bands that need that kind of a band shell background for broadcasting noise out. I mean, I can hear stuff from Hoozles at my house, and it isn't using a band shell to make that sound get over there. Is the cost really worth the benefit for us? Maybe if money not coming out of taxpayers' hands is being used for it, I would definitely back it, but if the taxpayers are gonna pay money, they're gonna have to convince me why we need it that bad in order for us to try and give money to it. Done.
Okay. Lori?
My understanding is that the band shell is already paid for through donations of Visit Rome, the Legacy Foundation, which was part of the hospital, and also through donations through Nakusa Port Edward State Bank, as well as Sand Valley. So there's just a little bit of money that they're looking to raise yet, and it's already been put out for contracts. So as far as not the town telling them not to put it up. I don't know how to tell them not to do that, but I guess it's already underway to be built in the spring. So as far as pickleball courts and everything else, by all means, I believe those are ready to be underway built as well. So you got two things to look forward to in the spring. I love the gazebo. It's perfect for music in the park. The band shell was originally part of the park design, and I think it adds something to draw people. There's already events that are planned for that. I think it's a nice feature that's as our community continues to grow. It's good to have there. I wish there were other aspects of the park that maybe had been looked at first. With pickleball, maybe something for the children and the family and the grandparents to add to part of the park, the original grand plan for the park that was on the original design. There was pickleball courts, there was a gaga pit, which is something for kids that they love to play in, and most older people like me and you probably don't know what that is, but kids do and they love it. Even children with disabilities can play in it. But the band shell, I know that there's potential for revenues. I don't know what the ongoing maintenance costs will be. I know that is a concern for me. I do have a concern about that. And I know there was some disappointment. Oh,
Time's
okay.
up. Okay. Tom, you'll be the first person on this next question. Again, it's related to recreational activities. How can the town in Adams County help draft, build, and develop more biking and walking paths? How can the town support a tunnel and trail system?
You talk about a bike path, you're talking about a lot of safety issues. A lot of our roads aren't wide enough to handle that kind of a bike route that the state requires. One of the point cases going up Alpine to the west, we have those little side spots there that are supposed to be bike trails, but officially they're not wide enough. You're talking about a lot of money getting done there. We would probably have to have other places on some of the side roads. Obviously, you could go down those anytime. They're not all that populated with cars. The tunnel, I believe there's already a study in progress for that. Again, that's going through, as Lori said, the Visit Rome people. They're taking care of a portion of that for us. They may even cover all of it. But we would have to see how much use that would get to go with a cost-benefit analysis again. And don't get me wrong there, obviously if anybody were to be able to get hit while trying to cross Highway 13, as it sits right now at Apache, any money we could put for a tunnel would definitely be worth it also.
Laurie.
Would you please ask the question again, Barb?
How can the town in Adams County help draft, build, and develop more biking and walking paths? How can the town support a tunnel and trail system?
I believe years ago when I was on the county board, there was a very active group that developed a biking and walking plan. There was actually a guidebook that they had put together. I don't know how active that group is. I didn't stay on top of that information. I don't know if they still work with the draft group up here. That would be something that we could continue to pursue. I know that draft is a very active group. They still meet monthly. I'm still on their mailing list or their email list. I'm very proud of that group and what they've done. I think the town should continue to support that. I know Visit Rome actively supports that group. Our town administrator is heavily involved in that group. And I think it's important. Visit Rome is supporting the engineer's study to do the underground tunnel. So I think it's also important that when roads are being reconstructed, we actively work to make sure that we construct the bike lanes when those roads are done. So we stay involved in all types of those things to help maintain the walking and the hiking trails in our town.
Dan?
I would like to see a proposal on what the bike paths and the walking trails are gonna be. You know, what are they gonna benefit? You know, right now, my neighbors walk all over the neighborhood, and they walk all day, and they walk on the town streets. They don't really go marching down 9th Avenue, and I don't think they go marching down Highway 13 either. But, you know, there's a lot of places to walk if you wanna walk your dogs and stuff like that, or just go out and exercise. Now, a bike trail, like they have down in the southern part of the state, where you go from this town to that town and all of this, and it's got some real benefits, that could be interesting, because that'll bring people in. It helps our residents, you know, go for a 25-mile bike ride where they're not in danger of getting run over by some semi-truck or some car or something like that. And that's again a benefit to the community. But I'm not gonna say I want bike trails or walking trails, and I won't say I'm against it. I want an idea of what they're promoting first, and if it's got the benefits and it looks really good and it's gonna help our town and help our town grow in a positive way, I'm all for it.
Okay, that ends the question period, and we'll go now to the closing statements, and Lori, you'll be the start on that.
Okay. I'm running for board for many reasons, but if I had to pick a few, one of them is definitely the roads. I question if 5 miles a year is enough. Several wear from more and heavier traffic seems to literally be breaking down the roads faster than ever before. Another one is land use and zoning, especially in our Gateway District. The main corridor of our town is starting to look a little rough, and a lot of people say they don't want us to become the Dells or even Minocqua for that matter. We need to consider the beautification efforts in our Gateway District. And we also have many road name signs that are faded, unreadable, and some are actually falling off. And something that is near and dear to me, as some of you know me, communication and enthusiasm, especially some of it here tonight. Communication does seem to be an issue about some of the things going on in our town and the understanding about what it is. We need to bolster, again, our sense of community and celebrate the things that are good, like the access to nature, parks, sports, and the different trails. I'm committed and an enthusiastic advocate for Rome. If elected, I promise to serve Rome by providing an insightful and comprehensive approach to economic development and our sense of community by creating policies and implementing services that preserve a small town atmosphere with first-rate recreation and natural resource preservation. Previously, as a town board supervisor, I did my best to listen to anyone in the community willing to talk to me. I publicly supported the ideas and causes that I believed were in the best interest to the entire town to reach a positive goal for Rome's future. I promise to do exactly that once again, and I like action and expect results. I take the good with the bad, and I did often take a lot of hits. Contrary to popular belief, government does not have to move slow. We don't have to start with a crawl. We can walk, skip, and then run. Thank you to everybody here tonight and those listening at home for their participation, and to the Rome makers for making this forum possible. I respectfully ask for your vote on April 5th. Thank you.
Okay. Dan?
I've spent almost 30 years as a project manager, determining costs, benefits of projects, knowing how to document them, knowing how to prioritize them. With that, I believe my business experience will help me, if I'm elected to the board, identify a whole list of projects that we need to do that's going to develop this town into a better town. It's a great town now, but we can always get better. What I don't want to do is see us digress. I think we need to identify a project, document it, work on the benefits, both hard and soft, work on the cost, so that there's no surprises once we say, oh, this is a great project, and find out that there's this overwhelming cost that's gonna come and bite us in the future. on a project. There's gonna be a bunch of them that are great. We're gonna start the cost, the benefits, you know, all of this. And because they fall a little bit lower, I believe we gotta document everything that we've done neatly and everything. So 2 years from now or a year from now, we can pull them up and redo it without redoing the work. Some of the best jobs I ever had, though, I was a Girl Scout leader for 3 years, and that was fun working with the little kids. And I was a substitute teacher for a couple of years, and there's a lot you can learn by being a substitute teacher. I hope I get your votes. My name's Dan, and please vote for me on April 5th. Thank you very much.
And Tom?
First, I'd like to thank all of you for staying here. You definitely had something better to do. If we weren't here, you guys would definitely have something better to do at this time. Thank you to the Rome homemakers for having this forum. Thanks for our county board members who are up for election and came here to answer all the questions. I guess I just want to let you know that if I'm elected, I'm going to be as transparent as can be. I'm not going to make decisions that weren't agreed upon between me and any of the people electing me. If you have any kind of issues, I'm going to be there. I'm going to listen to you. I'm not going to vote my way just because I think it's better than what you think. I'm here for you, not me for you. Or, sorry. I'm here for you. You're not there for me to tell what's going on. We see that too much right now in politics. Everybody at the federal level thinks we're all putting into their pocketbook and that's it. We need the money back. We need to stand for it. I expect all of you to hold everybody accountable. Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you to all the candidates and to each of you in the audience here tonight. You were just very attentive, and I'm sure the candidates appreciated that. And just remember that Election Day is April 5th. Thank you.